I was dying, but I wasn't dead yet. That's what I kept telling myself every time I watched my wife, Linda, pour another dose of medication into my evening tea. Every time I saw her smile at me with those concerned eyes while her phone buzzed with messages, she'd hide the moment I glanced her way. Every time I pretended my hands shook too much to hold the cup, so she'd have to help me drink it. I was dying, but I was the only one who knew I was fighting back. My name is Thomas Wheeler. I'm 63 years old, and 2 years ago, a drunk driver T-boned my truck at an intersection 5 miles from my house. I spent 4 months in the hospital. The doctors said I was lucky to be alive. My spine had been compressed in 3 places. My left leg was shattered. They told Linda I'd probably never walk again. For the first year, that was true. I was in a wheelchair, dependent on my wife for everything. Getting dressed, bathing, even using the bathroom. It strips away your dignity, piece by piece, until you're not sure who you are anymore. But something changed about 8 months ago. The physical therapy started working. I could feel strength returning to my legs. Not much, but enough. Enough that when Linda left the room, I could stand for a few seconds. Then a minute. Then I could take 3 steps before my legs gave out. I didn't tell her. I don't know why I kept it secret at first. Maybe some instinct told me to wait. Maybe I wanted to surprise her with good news when I could really walk again. Or maybe, deep down, I'd already started to notice things that didn't add up. The way she'd started going out more often, always at night, always with vague explanations. Book club, she'd say, or meeting with Sarah about the church fundraiser. The way she'd stopped looking me in the eye when she said she loved me. The way her phone was suddenly password protected when it never had been before. The way my best friend Marcus had stopped visiting. Marcus and I had been friends for 35 years. We'd built houses together when we were young men, trying to make names for ourselves as contractors. We'd been best man at each other's weddings. We'd coached Little League together, even though neither of us had kids who played anymore. After my accident, Marcus had been at the hospital every day. He'd helped Linda set up the wheelchair ramp at our house. He'd promised he'd be there for both of us, for whatever we needed. Then, about 10 months ago, he just stopped coming around. When I asked Linda about it, she said Marcus was dealing with his own problems. His contracting business was struggling. He was embarrassed to show his face. You know how proud he is, she said. He doesn't want you to see him like this. I believed her. Why wouldn't I? Linda was my wife of 28 years. Marcus was my closest friend. These were the 2 people I trusted more than anyone in the world. I believed her until the night I decided to practice standing while she was in the shower. I'd made it to the doorway of our bedroom when I heard her phone buzz on the nightstand. I shouldn't have looked. I know that. But something made me take those agonizing steps across the room, my legs screaming in protest, to see the screen. The message preview showed just enough. Same time tomorrow? I miss you. M. Marcus. I made it back to the wheelchair just before Linda came out of the bathroom, towel wrapped around her hair, smiling at me like nothing was wrong. Like she hadn't just received a message from my best friend that made my blood run cold. Ready for your evening meds, honey? She asked, reaching for the prescription bottles on my nightstand. I nodded, because what else could I do? I wasn't ready to confront her. Not yet. Not when I could barely stand, barely walk, barely take care of myself. That night, I didn't sleep. I lay there in the dark, listening to Linda breathe beside me, and I started adding things up. The physical therapy appointments she'd canceled without telling me, claiming my insurance wouldn't cover them anymore. The way my disability checks from the Veterans Administration seemed to go into our account but never appeared in the balance when I asked to see our bank statements online. The way she'd started talking about downsizing and selling our house, the house I'd built with my own hands 40 years ago. The way I'd been feeling weaker lately, not stronger, even though the doctors said I should be improving. And Marcus, who disappeared from my life right around the time Linda had started acting different. I was dying, but now I knew it might not be from the accident. The next morning, I told Linda I wanted to try to do more things for myself. The doctors said independence is important for recovery, I said, which was true enough. She seemed pleased, probably because it meant less work for her. She set my medications on the bedside table where I could reach them myself, showed me which pills to take when, and kissed my forehead before leaving for her book club meeting. The moment her car pulled out of the driveway, I wheeled myself to the kitchen trash can. I'd been counting my pills every night for the past week, and I'd noticed something strange. The prescription bottle said 60 pills, a month's supply. But I was already down to 38 pills, and I'd only had the prescription for 2 weeks. I was taking 2 pills a day. The bottle should have had 46 left. 8 pills were missing, and I'd been feeling progressively worse for the past 2 weeks. I didn't flush the pills that day. I didn't throw them away. I did something that would have seemed paranoid if I hadn't already seen that text message from Marcus. I took my evening dose to the bathroom, crushed it into powder, and compared it to one of my morning pills. The colors didn't match. The textures were different. Someone was switching out my medication, and the only person with access to my pills was Linda. I needed proof. I needed to know what I was dealing with before I made any moves. So I did something I never thought I'd do in my life. I went online and ordered hidden cameras. Tiny ones, the kind that look like USB chargers and smoke detectors. I paid extra for overnight shipping and had them delivered to a UPS store 3 miles away, where I'd set up a mailbox years ago for business correspondence. The hard part was getting there. I'd been practicing walking in secret for months, but 3 miles might as well have been 300. I couldn't drive anymore, not legally. My legs could hold me for maybe 5 minutes before they started shaking uncontrollably. But I was dying, and I needed to know who was killing me. I told Linda I wanted to try using my manual wheelchair outside, that I thought the fresh air and exercise would be good for me. She seemed distracted when I said it, checking her phone again, and just nodded. "That's great, honey. Just be careful." It took me 4 hours to get to that UPS store. I had to stop every few blocks to rest. My shoulders ached. My arms felt like they were on fire. An elderly woman stopped her car and asked if I needed help, and I lied and said I was just fine, just getting some exercise, like my doctor recommended. When I finally got to the store, the clerk looked concerned. "Mr. Wheeler, are you okay? Should I call someone?" "I'm fine," I said, and I signed for my package with hands that shook from exhaustion, not illness. The trip back took 5 hours. By the time I got home, Linda was already there, pacing in the driveway. "Where have you been?" she demanded. "I've been calling you for hours." "My phone died," I said, which was true. "I just wanted to go for a longer ride. I'm sorry I worried you." Her face softened, but something in her eyes didn't. "You need to be more careful, Tom. You could have been hurt. You could have been—" She didn't finish the sentence, but I heard it anyway. "You could have been dead." Yeah, I could have been, but not from falling out of my wheelchair. That night, while Linda was in the shower again, I installed the first camera. It looked like a regular USB phone charger plugged into the outlet next to my nightstand. It had a perfect view of my medication bottles and the side of the bed where Linda slept. Over the next 3 days, I installed 5 more cameras. One in the kitchen, hidden in the microwave clock. One in the living room, built into what looked like a Bluetooth speaker. One in the garage, mounted inside an old toolbox on the shelf. One in the hallway, disguised as a thermostat. And one in our bedroom closet, tucked into a shoebox on the top shelf. I could access all the feeds from my phone, which I kept in my lap at all times now, telling Linda I was using it to track my physical therapy exercises. The first night of recording, I didn't see anything unusual. Linda gave me my medication, helped me get ready for bed, kissed me goodnight. She seemed like the woman I'd married, the woman who'd promised to love me in sickness and in health. The second night, she got a phone call at 11 p.m. She stepped into the bathroom to take it, but she didn't close the door all the way. I couldn't hear the words, but I could hear the tone. It was intimate, soft, the way she used to talk to me. The third night, I saw her switch my pills. I was supposed to be asleep. I'd pretended to take my evening medication, but I'd actually hidden the pills under my tongue and spit them into a tissue when Linda left the room. The camera caught everything in perfect clarity. She came back into the bedroom at midnight, checked to make sure I was breathing, and then opened my prescription bottle. She dumped out a handful of my actual medication and replaced them with pills from a different bottle, one she kept in her purse. Then she texted someone. I couldn't see what she wrote, but I could see her smile when she got a response. I didn't sleep that night either. I lay there next to my wife, the woman I'd spent almost 3 decades with, and I tried to understand how we'd gotten here. What had I done wrong? When had she stopped loving me? When had she decided that killing me was easier than leaving me? Or maybe it wasn't about love at all. Maybe it was about money. The Veterans Administration paid me $3,200 a month in disability. Our house was paid off, worth probably $400,000 in today's market. I had a life insurance policy through my old contracting business, $250,000 that would go to Linda as my beneficiary. Together, she and Marcus could start over. Maybe open that custom furniture workshop Marcus had always dreamed about. Maybe travel, something Linda always said she wanted to do but we'd never had the money for. All they had to do was wait for me to die. Or help me along. I spent the next week gathering evidence. Every night, Linda switched my pills. Every afternoon, she left the house for 2 or 3 hours, claiming errands or appointments or volunteer work at the church. I tracked her phone using an app I'd installed back when we first got smartphones, something she'd forgotten about. She never went to the church. She went to Marcus's house, the little ranch he'd bought after his divorce, 15 miles outside of town. She'd stay for exactly 2 hours, then come home and ask me about my day with a smile that made me sick. The cameras caught more than I wanted to see. Linda going through my wallet, taking cash I didn't know was missing. Linda on the phone with someone discussing what happens to the house after I was gone. Linda sitting on our bed, looking at something on her laptop, and I could see the reflection in the mirror she was shopping for vacation packages to Costa Rica. But I needed more than suspicion. I needed them to tell me what they were doing. I needed a confession. My lawyer was a woman named Patricia Chen, sharp as a knife and about as trusting as a wounded animal. I'd used her 10 years ago for some contract disputes in my business. When I called her office and asked for a meeting, her assistant said Miss Chen could see me in 2 weeks. Tell her it's about attempted murder, I said. Tell her I'll pay triple her normal rate. Tell her I need to see her tomorrow. She cleared her schedule. I didn't tell Linda where I was going. I told her I had a doctor's appointment, which wasn't entirely a lie. I was going to see someone about my health, just not a medical doctor. I called a cab, paid cash, and showed up at Patricia Chen's office with my phone full of video evidence and a story that made her set down her coffee and stare at me for a full minute. Mr. Wheeler, she finally said, do you understand what you're showing me? My wife is poisoning me, I said. I need to know what those pills are, and I need to know how to stop her without getting myself killed in the process. Patricia made 2 phone calls. The first was to a private lab that did toxicology testing, no questions asked. The second was to a detective she knew in the county sheriff's office, someone she said owed her a favor. Here's what we're going to do, she said. You're going to give me one of those fake pills. We're going to test it and find out exactly what your wife is giving you. Then we're going to build a case so airtight that she won't be able to talk her way out of it. But Tom, she leaned forward, her expression serious. You cannot confront her. You cannot let her know you suspect anything. If she thinks you're onto her, she might escalate. Do you understand? I understood. I understood that I was playing a dangerous game, that every night I spent in that house was a night Linda might decide to speed things up. But I also understood that if I ran, if I left without proof, she'd claim I'd abandoned her. She'd get the house anyway. She'd get everything, and she'd get away with it. How long will the test take? I asked. 72 hours. 3 more days. 3 more nights of pretending to take pills that might be killing me. 3 more nights of lying next to a woman who was waiting for me to die. I can do that, I said. Those were the longest 3 days of my life. I went home and kept up the act. I palmed the pills Linda gave me, hid them in a plastic bag in my wheelchair's seat cushion. I pretended to grow weaker, let my hands shake more, slurred my words a little when I talked to her. She'd smile and say, "You sound tired, honey. Why don't you rest?" On the second day, Marcus came to visit. I hadn't seen him in almost a year. He walked through the door like nothing was wrong, carrying a six-pack of my favorite beer and a sympathy card that probably cost $4 at Walgreens. "Tommy," he said, using the nickname he'd called me since we were 25. "Linda told me you weren't doing so good. Thought I'd stop by." I looked at Linda. She wouldn't meet my eyes. "I called him," she said. "I thought it might cheer you up to see an old friend." Marcus sat with me for an hour. We talked about the old days, about jobs we'd worked together, about the time we'd accidentally knocked a hole in the wrong wall and had to sweet-talk the homeowner into thinking it was part of the plan. He asked about my health, and I told him I was hanging in there, that some days were better than others. "You're a tough old bastard," he said, clapping me on the shoulder. "You'll beat this." He didn't know I had a camera in the smoke detector above us, recording every word. He didn't know that my phone was in my lap, already backed up to the cloud, already being monitored by Detective Sarah Reeves of the county sheriff's office. After Marcus left, Linda made dinner, pot roast, my favorite. She served it with a smile and asked if I wanted wine with dinner. "Just water?" I said. I didn't trust anything she gave me anymore. That night, after she thought I was asleep, I watched through half-closed eyes as she checked my breathing. Her hand hovered near my face for a long moment, and I wondered if she was thinking about putting a pillow over it. If she was calculating how easy it would be, how she could call 911 and cry, and say I'd simply stopped breathing in my sleep. But she didn't. She went back to her side of the bed and went to sleep, or pretended to. I couldn't tell anymore what was real and what was performance. On the third day, Patricia Chen called. "We have the results," she said. "Can you come to my office?" I told Linda I had another doctor's appointment. She offered to drive me, and I said no, that I'd called a cab because I didn't want her to have to sit in a waiting room for hours. She looked relieved. Patricia met me in her office with Detective Reeves, a woman in her 40s with tired eyes and a no-nonsense attitude. "Mr. Wheeler," she said, shaking my hand, "Miss Chen has shown me your evidence. I have to say, in 20 years of police work, I've rarely seen someone build such a thorough case." "What were the pills?" I asked. Patricia slid a report across her desk. "Clonazepam," she said, "a sedative, mixed with what appears to be crushed Ambien. In the doses she was giving you, enough to cause severe drowsiness, confusion, respiratory depression. Not enough to kill you quickly, but enough to make it look like your condition was deteriorating naturally." "Why not just give me enough to kill me outright?" I asked. Detective Reeves answered, "Because that would show up in an autopsy. This way, if you died, it would look like complications from your accident. Your doctors would sign off on natural causes. No one would look too closely." "Except I'm not dying fast enough," I said. "No," Patricia agreed, "which means she's going to escalate. We need to move now. Here's what they told me. I would go home. I would act normal. That night, I would take the pills Linda gave me, but I wouldn't actually swallow them. I'd hide them like I'd been doing. I'd go to sleep. And at midnight, Detective Reeves and her team would execute a search warrant on my house." "Will I be safe until midnight?" I asked. Detective Reeves looked me in the eye. "Mr. Wheeler, I'm not going to lie to you. There's a risk. But if we move too early, if she doesn't do anything incriminating tonight, a good lawyer could argue circumstantial evidence. We need to catch her in the act." "What act?" "We need her to either give you the pills on camera, or better yet, we need her and Marcus to discuss what they're doing." "Miss Chen said you have cameras throughout the house?" I nodded. "Then we wait for them to make a mistake. People who think they're getting away with murder get cocky. They talk. And when they do, we'll have everything we need." I went home. Linda was in the kitchen, cooking dinner again. "How was your appointment?" she asked. "Fine," I said. "Doctor says I'm stable." Something flickered across her face. Disappointment? Frustration? It was gone too fast to read. We ate dinner in silence. Linda kept checking her phone. Finally, around 8 p.m., she said, "I need to run to the store. We're out of milk. Will you be okay for an hour?" "I'll be fine," I said. The moment her car left the driveway, I called Detective Reeves. "She's going to Marcus's house," I said. "We know. We have a unit following her. Stay calm, Mr. Wheeler. This ends tonight. Linda came home 90 minutes later without any milk. She looked flushed, excited. They were out of the brand you like. She lied. I'll go to a different store tomorrow. At 10 p.m., she gave me my medications. The camera caught everything. Her opening the bottle, shaking out 2 blue pills that weren't the same color as my prescription, handing them to me with a glass of water. Take these, honey. They'll help you sleep. I put them in my mouth and pretended to swallow. She watched me drink the water, then kissed my forehead. Good night, Tom. Sweet dreams. I waited until she left the room, then spit the pills into my hand and tucked them into the plastic bag I kept hidden in my wheelchair. I wheeled myself to bed, transferred carefully, and lay down. I heard Linda in the bathroom, getting ready for bed. I heard her come into the bedroom, felt the mattress shift as she lay down beside me, and I waited. At 11:30 p.m., her phone buzzed. She got up carefully, checking to see if I was asleep, and tiptoed out of the bedroom. I heard her voice in the hallway, quiet but excited. It's working. No, he's getting weaker every day. Maybe another week, 2 at most. I know, baby. I know. Just a little longer, and we'll have everything. I love you too. The bedroom door opened. Linda slipped back into bed. Her breathing evened out, and I thought she might actually fall asleep. Then, at 11:55, there was a knock at the door. Linda sat up, confused. Who would be here at this hour? I pretended to sleep as she got up, pulled on a robe, and went to the door. Through the bedroom doorway, I could see her open it. Marcus stood there, and he didn't look happy. What are you doing here? Linda hissed. Tom's asleep. We need to talk, Marcus said, pushing past her into the house. This is taking too long, Linda. What if someone gets suspicious? What if? Lower your voice. Linda pulled him into the living room, but I could still hear them. The camera in the Bluetooth speaker was recording everything. I'm tired of waiting, Marcus said. Every day we wait is another day something could go wrong. Why don't we just speed things up? Speed things up how? You know how. The pills aren't working fast enough. What if we just made it look like an accident? There was a pause. Then Linda said, How? He takes baths, right? People drown in bathtubs all the time, especially people who are weak, who are on medication. Marcus, I don't know if I can. You've already done it, Marcus interrupted. You've been poisoning him for months. This is just finishing what we started. Another pause. Longer this time. Then Linda said, When? Tonight. Right now. He's asleep. We fill the tub. We put him in it. We hold him under for just a minute. It'll be over so fast, baby. And then we're free. I heard Linda take a shaky breath. Okay, she whispered. Okay. Let's do it. I heard footsteps coming toward the bedroom. I closed my eyes and tried to keep my breathing even, tried not to shake, tried not to let them see that I was terrified. The bedroom light flicked on. Tom? Linda's voice, soft and concerned. Honey, wake up. Let's get you a nice warm bath before bed. It'll help you sleep. I didn't move. I made myself stay limp, unresponsive, like the medication had knocked me out completely. He's really out, Marcus said. Help me lift him. I felt hands on me, under my arms, under my knees. They lifted me from the bed, and I let my head loll back, dead weight. They carried me through the bedroom door, down the hallway, toward the bathroom, and that's when Detective Reeves and 4 sheriff's deputies burst through the front door with their guns drawn. Sheriff's office. Hands where we can see them. Marcus dropped me. I hit the floor hard, my shoulder slamming into the wall, but I didn't care because I was alive. Linda screamed. Marcus tried to run and got tackled by 2 deputies in the hallway. Detective Reeves knelt beside me. Mr. Wheeler, are you all right? I opened my eyes and looked at her. I am now. The next hour was chaos. More police arrived. Crime scene techs photographed everything. Paramedics checked me over and found the bruise already forming on my shoulder, but otherwise declared me unharmed. Detective Reeves read Linda and Marcus their rights while they stood in handcuffs in my living room, both of them crying, both of them trying to blame each other. She asked me to help her, Marcus shouted. She said Tom was suffering, that it would be a mercy. That's a lie, Linda sobbed. He threatened me. He said if I didn't help him, he'd tell everyone about the affair. I sat in my wheelchair and watched them destroy each other, these two people I'd loved more than anyone in the world. And I felt nothing. No anger, no sadness. Just a cold, empty relief that I was still breathing. Detective Reeves came over to me. "We have everything we need, Mr. Wheeler." The cameras caught their entire conversation. The pills tested positive for sedatives. The financial records show your wife has been stealing from your disability account for months. And we have them on attempted murder tonight. They're not walking away from this. "What happens now?" I asked. "Now we take them to county lockup. Tomorrow they'll be arraigned. Miss Chen will walk you through the rest. But Tom," she put a hand on my shoulder, "you're one of the bravest people I've ever met. What you did, living with that fear for weeks, gathering evidence that took guts. I just wanted to live," I said. "Well, you're going to. And they're going to pay for trying to take that from you." They led Linda past me in handcuffs. She stopped and looked at me with tears streaming down her face. "Tom, please. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I made a mistake. Please don't let them do this. We can work this out. We can go to counseling. We can—" "You tried to drown me," I said quietly. "You spent months poisoning me. You stole from me. You lied to me. You brought him into our home and planned my murder in our living room. I was scared. I didn't know what else to do," Marcus said. I don't care what Marcus said. I looked her in the eyes for the first time in months and saw a stranger. "You're not my wife anymore. You're just someone who tried to kill me and failed." The deputy pulled her away. She was still crying, still trying to explain, but I couldn't hear her anymore. I didn't want to. Marcus didn't even look at me as they let him out. Maybe he was too ashamed. Maybe he'd already written me off as a casualty of his greed. I didn't care. He wasn't my friend. I didn't know what he was. After they were gone, after the police had taken their photos and their samples and their statements, Patricia Chen sat with me in my kitchen while a locksmith changed all my locks. "The district attorney's office will be in touch tomorrow," she said. "They're going to want your testimony. But between the video evidence and the toxicology reports, this is one of the strongest cases I've ever seen. They're looking at attempted murder, conspiracy to commit murder, elder abuse, financial fraud. Linda's looking at 20 to 30 years. Marcus is looking at the same." "Good," I said. And I meant it. "There's something else," Patricia said gently. "You're going to need help, Tom. Not just legal help. You're going to need someone to stay with you for a while, to help you process all this. Do you have family? Friends?" I thought about it. My parents were dead. I had a sister in Oregon I hadn't talked to in 5 years. My friends were mostly Linda's friends, people from her church and her book club. The only person I'd trusted outside my marriage was Marcus. And that was gone now too. "No," I said finally. "I don't have anyone." "Then let me make some calls. I know a home health service that can send someone to stay with you until you're back on your feet. Literally and figuratively." She made good on that promise. 2 days later, a nurse named Angela moved into my guest room. She was 58, recently divorced, and told me on her first day that she'd seen enough betrayal in her own life to know that I needed time to heal from mine. "Here's the deal," she said. "I'm going to help you get strong again. Physically, yes, but also mentally. You've been through hell. You're allowed to feel angry. You're allowed to feel sad. You're allowed to feel relieved. All of it at once if you want. But you're not allowed to give up. Deal?" "Deal," I said. Over the next 3 months, Angela helped me do what Linda should have been doing all along. She took me to physical therapy 3 times a week. She made sure I ate real food, not the processed garbage Linda had been feeding me. She walked with me, patiently, as I relearned how to move without the wheelchair. 10 steps at first, then 20, then 100. 6 months after that night, I walked into the courthouse for Linda and Marcus's trial. Not in a wheelchair, not with a walker. On my own 2 feet, with just a cane for balance. Linda cried when she saw me. Marcus stared at the floor. The trial lasted 4 days. The prosecution played the videos from my cameras. They showed the jury the pills Linda had been giving me, explained what they would have done to my body over time. They brought in Detective Reeves, who testified about finding us in the hallway, about hearing Linda and Marcus agree to drown me. Linda's lawyer tried to argue that she'd been manipulated by Marcus, that she'd never actually intended to hurt me. Marcus's lawyer tried to argue the opposite, that Linda had been the mastermind, and Marcus was just a lovesick fool. The jury didn't buy either story. Linda got 25 years. Marcus got 28 because of his prior record for fraud that I hadn't even known about. The judge called them both predators who targeted a vulnerable man for financial gain and said he wished he could give them more. I sat in that courtroom and watched them led away in handcuffs. And I waited to feel something. Satisfaction, maybe. Or vindication. Or even sadness for what we'd all lost. But all I felt was tired. After the trial, Angela helped me sell the house. I couldn't live there anymore. Not in the rooms where Linda had planned my death, where Marcus had sat on my couch and pretended to be my friend while scheming to inherit my money. I sold it to a young couple with 2 kids, and I hoped they'd fill it with better memories than mine. With the money from the sale and my disability income, I bought a small cabin in the mountains, 3 hours away from everything I'd known. Angela came with me, not as my nurse anymore, but as my friend. We were both starting over, both learning how to trust again after being betrayed by the people we'd loved. We spent our days hiking the trails I'd thought I'd never walk again. We spent our evenings on the porch, watching the sunset, not talking about the past because there was nothing left to say. We were alive, we were free, and we were building something new from the ashes of everything we'd lost. Sometimes, late at night, I still think about that moment in the hallway. The moment when Linda said okay to Marcus's plan to drown me. The moment when I realized that the woman I'd spent 28 years with was capable of murder. The moment when I understood that love doesn't always mean what we think it means. But I also think about the moment I decided to fight back. The moment I installed those cameras. The moment I called Patricia Chen. The moment I looked Detective Reeves in the eye and said I was ready to see this through to the end. I was dying, but I didn't die. And in the end, that made all the difference. The road ahead of me now is open. I'm 73 years old, and I can walk. I can breathe. I can wake up in the morning without checking to see if someone's tampered with my medication. I can trust the person making my coffee because she's earned that trust, not because I'm too weak to question her. I was dying, but I survived. And this time, when I say I'm living, I mean it.